Fernando Alonso was only 4 points away from having 5 world titles if we look back over some of his closest seasons. The fact that he is holding 2 world championships does not give us the full indication of how good Alonso was over his career, and still is even at 42. And for some of the newer F1 viewers, you may be wondering why a 2-time world champion who hasn't won a championship since 2006 has been regarded over time as one of the greats and put up there amongst Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Unfortunately, when we're looking at Fernando Alonso, some poor luck and the fact that he likes to burn bridges behind him has meant that there has been titles left on the table over those years. If we kick back into 2007, Alonso was extremely close to a world title, but certain things behind the scenes at McLaren, as well as them employing a young rookie who would go on to be statistically the greatest driver in F1 history and match Michael Schumacher's 7 world titles, would be lined up alongside him. Throughout the 2007 year at McLaren, Alonso and Hamilton had an intense rivalry both on and off the track, and they both fought each other down to the wire, finishing on even points at the end of the season at the finale in Brazil. There was basically nothing between them, which says a lot about Hamilton given the fact that this was a driver going for his 3rd consecutive title. Unfortunately, this intense rivalry for Alonso meant that Kimi Räikkönen, taking the win at the finale in Brazil, was able to pass both by 1 point and seal the championship. There's more to it though. There is the fact, for example, that this was the year that Spygate was going on, an incident that we've already covered, an incident that meant that McLaren, who would have won the Constructors' title that year thanks to these 2 wonderful drivers, were banned from the championship. And Alonso, who had a contract to stay with the team for 2008 and fight Hamilton once again, had decided because of this it was time to walk away and go back to Renault. You see, he had an intense problem with Ron Dennis and even threatened Ron Dennis at the time. But again, we covered that in detail in the video. But in that specific 2007 championship, Alonso was only 1 point away from winning the title. And that was not the only time that he would come so close yet so far to winning a title. Fernando Alonso's 2010 campaign saw him driving for Scuderia Ferrari, with the team and driver eager to secure a championship. After having 5 victories under his belt, Fernando Alonso arrived at the season finale in Abu Dhabi as the championship leader. However, during the race, Ferrari would do Ferrari things. A poorly timed pit stop had him exit behind a car of his former team Renault, driven by Vitaly Petrov, and he got stuck there for most of the race. In fact, this is the primary reason as to why DRS is in F1. He was stuck behind Petrov for so long that Sebastian Vettel, who hadn't led the championship even once throughout the season, took the victory and the championship. And Alonso fell short of this championship by just 4 points. Another situation where Alonso showed his mettle over the course of a season, only to get unlucky at the end. And it wouldn't be the last time for the then young and feisty Spaniard. Out of all of these championship losses, the 2012 was the most devastating and the most impressive. Fernando Alonso's 2012 title challenge was marked by his extraordinary consistency as he secured points in all but one of the season's races. Driving a less competitive Ferrari, he remained in the title hunt until the very end. And I cannot overstate how far off the mark this Ferrari was. The fact that he was able to keep it in the hunt the whole way through the season is literally one of the reasons why I am so excited about what Aston can do this year. Because the gap between the Ferrari and the Red Bull that year wasn't quite anywhere near what it is this year. But let's just bear in mind, it was very similar to, say, Ferrari and Red Bull last year. And yet he was able to stay right up there alongside Sebastian Vettel up until the very end. It was an incredible feat. And if you haven't watched the 2012 season, I urge you to go back and see what I mean. At the season finale in Brazil though, Alonso, even though he had kept in the fight, still had a mountain to overcome. He needed to outscore Sebastian Vettel by 14 points to secure the championship. And on the opening lap, it seemed like he was going to get this in hand, as Vettel was spun coming into turn 4 and had to kick off the race again basically from the back. Unfortunately for Alonso, this was Vettel in his prime, and the fight was on for an epic season finale. And if you haven't watched it again, please go watch it. It's one of the best finales of all time. Despite a valiant effort, finishing second in the race, Vettel fought his way back to 6th place in the race, and that was just enough for Vettel to win the title. Alonso once again narrowly missed out on a championship, losing by just 3 points. This means that Alonso, with at most 4 points in any of these seasons, could have been a 5-time world champion. So the next time you're wondering why people are bigging up Alonso so much, remember this key piece of advice: subscribe.